We are basically three partners here. My wife, me, and my God. Setting up museums was not my idea. My idea was to just collect, preserve these things. I'm Victor Hugo Gomes. I'm an artist, collector, and a curator. Be Toshen's Bath, you reap what you sow. This seed was sown in me by my grandmother. My grandmother was blind, she could not see. But she was a wonderful narrator. She would create a visual of the land that she and I was born to, Goa. After my grandmother passed away, all the stories that my grandmother told me started fading away. The story was changing. My generation had jumped from fishing net to internet. It was very difficult. I started hating this place because the very fields that I played on, the very water bodies that my grandmother spoke about were changing, were being destroyed. The first opportunity that I got to leave Goa, I left Goa never to come back. That constant questioning, where is that Goa?
The next 3 years, I was in Lucknow studying restoration. In 1992, I decided to come back to save whatever I could.
There was a time Goa was going through this change of all these Indo-Portuguese houses being demolished for concrete monstrosities. People used to take plastic chairs home, but they used to leave behind stone grinders, rolling stones, old furniture with one leg broken. There came a time where a lot of people started investing on old houses, and I was one of the first guys to be selected to restore those houses. So at that time, I had the vision to collect architectural castaways. Goa Chitra is built with recycled architectural castaways. So it was a continuous story, not just me going around buying from antique dealers. It was also collecting from different homes that I restored, things that were thrown out.
You see, we all grew up in old houses which were full of antiquities that were made by local artisans.
I used to collect right from the time I was a child. Go to places where I was not allowed to go, the attics in homes, storerooms. Initially, I was collecting tools, speakers, which I would open up, fix. But during that time, I found some of the most shocking things. Skeletons, bones that were saved, kept in the corner of the house. I found fetuses, probably kept by the mother in the memory of a child that was aborted. These things that I'd collected, I'd dumped them in my grandmother's room. And I came back, everything that I had collected was destroyed or thrown out by my parents. They're not to be blamed, because according to them it was rubbish. They had outgrown from it. I collected all over again. People to understand what I was trying to do, because for most of them it was like, oh, we use these things in our houses. They never looked at it that they would disappear someday. And the full story of Goa would be finished with it. My work is of about 30 years, where I've lived in remote areas of Goa. The first ever piece that you see in my museum is the oil grinder. It was totally eaten up. I had to grout it in the ground to fix it. So over that, I built the first shed so that I could restore it. It became a museum. And then after that, it was no looking back. I just kept on adding galleries. These objects are all made from natural material. They will die someday. It's like an old age home. I'm just prolonging the death of these objects. But what is very important for me is to make miniatures or replicas of these objects made by the same people with the same knowledge, same technology, so that they can last for another 200 years. So that 100 years from now, any researcher, any student want to know about their roots, they'll have an unadulterated story or a narrative. Yesterday was a struggle. Today, most of it is complete. I remember the days whenever I saw an object, I used to give them whatever money I had and would tell them, I'll come back again, with the balance money and take the object. There are thousands of objects which I've not managed to collect till today. It's because we didn't have the funds. I was known for cars once upon a time. I sold all my cars. The few properties that I had bought, I sold all those properties to raise funds for this museum. When I collected my objects, there was no one to actually give me details. So I ended up translating each and every dictionary related to our language, Konkani, right from 1888 to the present one, word by word, to come out with my own glossary. So once my glossary was completed, I became like a madman. Shendlelia boilache rakandarache kanar gantu vazat rauta. So every time I used to hear that, so and so object is found in so and so place, I used to leave everything and go to that place. Price was immaterial. I don't want a single object that belonged to a culture to move out. I remember when I was documenting the potters, there was this potter in Verna whose body had literally taken the shape of the profession. He could not stand anymore. So his body was totally bent. It was in the month of September. It was drizzling. You could see that he wasn't well. So every time it drizzled, he would bring those pots in. Every time it stopped, he would go out and keep it for drying. And I noticed that he was making only one type of a pot called damane, which is used as a receptacle to collect toddy. So I asked him, why are you doing only these pots? So he said, if I stop making this damanes, the toddy tappers will have to stop their business. You can't replace that damane either with plastic or a metal pot, which will generate heat and kill the microorganisms that are needed for fermentation. The pottering clay, you need to dig about 1.5 meters in the ground, and they have to bead for it, from the Gaonkari system. So only then you get that clay. So they used to remove that clay and they had to refill that cavity that they created in the ground, and give it back to the farmers. They had to desilt the waterways and use the silt to refill this. So two things were done at one go: desilting of the waterways and reclaiming of the land. Our ancestors, they were self-sufficient. Everything that they made, right from their houses to their tools, was made with material that was found in the surrounding. Secondly, since it was natural material, it would go back to the soil. Unlike things that we use today, which leave a permanent scar on our planet, be it plastic, be it machines, we have become a dependent society. We used to help fishermen push a canoe or pull a net. At the end of it, they used to give us a little bit of fish in this small thing called kondol, which they would weave in seconds. I remember we used to take this home, we would throw it out, it would go back to the soil. About 3 years ago, I interviewed a woman in Kursharen who was 104 years old. She was like totally fit, very alert, but she came with a country-made cigar in her mouth and chewing pan. After the interview, which was almost about 2 hours with sharp answers, I asked her, I said, tell me what is the secret behind your long life? She said something wonderful. She said, son, I eat what I grow and I burn what I eat. One of the dreams of Goa Chitra is to create things which go back to the soil. We are actually borrowing the future and the reserves which are meant for the future generation. We are temporary custodians. So it's our job to pass it on to the next generation, not just the objects, the unadulterated story of Goa. Goa Chitra has been a sort of a lonely journey. I think it's because of the choices that I made. The testing period is over. We have proved not only by sustaining with Goa Chitra, by opening 2 more museums after that. See, if this remains as a museum, it will die with me. I don't have children of my own. Basically because I had these children in mind, these different museums that I would be setting up. I need to institutionalize this. So my dream is to convert this into a school of culture. You know, Goa Chitra is known in the world, but my greatest wish would be every Goan taking pride in this collection. Why don't Goans take pride in their heritage?